Welcome back to Hey Kentucky. We have the pleasure today of being joined by Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
How has it been the first couple months here?
You know, it's been very interesting. It's a different world. I come from the world of education, so I spent my time in the classroom as a high school civics teacher and a head girls basketball coach here in Kentucky, and eventually became an assistant principal. So a very different setting than obviously being in state government. So I'm adjusting to that. I joke with people sometimes that my last job was discipline for juniors and seniors, so it's not all that different. but I've really enjoyed it. It's an opportunity to be able to impact, not just the kids in your classroom, not just the kids in your school, but kids across Kentucky who are in public schools.
Now, you had tried your hand at politics a little bit. What got you into that realm in the first place?
So I grew up in a home, my father was a state representative from the time I was probably in second grade until I graduated college. And so, it's a much smaller scale. It was like 2.5 counties that he covered, but that was where a commitment to public service and civic engagement was really instilled in me. I thought I was going to become a high school civics teacher and teach those concepts, right? And I did for several years. And I guess it's in my blood. I said my father was a state representative. My great grandfather was the state ag commissioner and the state auditor. He was the last person from Mercer County who was elected to statewide office, actually. So it's in there, and while I thought maybe I would teach it, I ended up having the opportunity to actually live it, and so I'm very grateful for that.
When the election came and we were wondering, would educators show up and vote? And they certainly did. I think that's a big part of the reason you and Governor Beshear were elected, was because it's a priority for so many Kentuckians. Obviously, it's a priority. Governor Beshear has talked about that since day one, and in his first, State of the Commonwealth and everything. What do you reasonably believe you can achieve in this first session?
So I think the most important thing, and this doesn't require legislation or funding, but the most important thing is to restore dignity and respect to the profession in general. As I traveled the state, one of the concerns that I had was the people that I know in my life, the veteran teachers, were exiting as quickly as they could because they were concerned about their retirement. As I met young people who were in college, they would say to me, well, I was going to be a teacher, but now I'm not so sure. And that was what was concerning to me, because to me, when you enter the field of education, it's a calling. We need people who are called to do that work, and we have to value that. We have to work really hard to close the gap that we have with making sure that we can recruit and retain the best and brightest teachers. The governor and I believe that doing that includes giving teachers across the board a raise. And you will see that in our budget that the governor's going to unveil on Tuesday, because that's a raise that we believe has been earned, and it's one that we believe will help us recruit and retain better teachers. There are so many things that we have to do that once we get those great teachers in the classroom, to keep them there. There are support mechanisms that we have to have in place to make sure that they have the resources that they need. We're asking teachers right now to teach without textbooks. There was no textbook funding in the last budget. We're asking them to pursue their own professional development. It's 24 hours of professional development with no help for funding. Those things have got to change. Whatever expectations we set for our educators, we must help them to meet those expectations, and that's what Andy and I are committed to do.
I think everybody would say that sounds amazing. Mm-hmm. How do we pay for it?
Yeah, well, I can tell you it's in our budget, and we've budgeted for it. We've made sure that funding for it's called SEEK funding, the per pupil funding. Make sure that we are funding those numbers, and not only that, here's the other issue. We so often focus on K-12 education, but we've got a continuum, what I like to call cradle to career in Kentucky, that's got to have our focus. We've got to focus on early childhood and pre-K services, and we've got to make sure that we stop the bleeding at the post-secondary level. Our universities across the state and community colleges have been cut and cut and cut since 2008. This is the first budget that we're going to see where that doesn't happen.
Well, and there was a fairly immediate change when you all took office and the state board was dismantled, truly, and you guys are now in the process of trying to find a leader for that.
Yes, yes. So we reset the Board of Education. Our entire state Board of Education was developed within the education community. We reached out to all the groups that represent teachers, principals, superintendents, school councils, and asked for their input. It's been so long since we have invited people into the conversation and to have a seat at the table to help us solve those challenges. And so when you look at the makeup of the new State Board of Education, they are remarkable individuals. We've got award-winning teachers at every level. We have athletic administrators. We have former university presidents. University of Kentucky's former president is on there. College professors, teachers at every level who are there to figure out how we can make public education the best it can be. And so we are committed to making sure that in this national search that we have for a new commissioner of education, that we find those same qualities in that person.
Would you ever want to be governor?
I'm just getting used to this. I've had a really great experience as lieutenant governor. I'm learning a lot every day. I think as a teacher, I know to be a lifelong learner, so I pay attention and absorb everything I can. I can't fathom that at this moment because I'm trying to wrap my head around being Secretary of Education and Lieutenant Governor.
And mom.
And mom, yes, that might be the biggest, I guess that's the biggest title, and that one's coming up very soon. But I am honored to be in this position, and I take the weight of the responsibility very seriously.
Lieutenant Governor, such an honor.
Thank you.
Best of luck in the next couple of weeks. Going through a lot, but it's such a blessing and a joy, so we wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, stay with us. Much more Hey Kentucky right after this.